Hello guys, welcome back to Sports Dare, and on this video, I am going to be ranking the best names for the Washington football team name. Watch until the end to find out. So hit that subscribe button if you're new, and please don't forget to turn on that notification bell for all new videos in the future. So let's get this video started! The Washington Football Club. I guess they can get rid of the team in the name and add club at the end of the Washington Football Club team name. A lot of soccer teams call themselves the football club, and the abbreviation for that is FC for short. This shouldn't even be a suggestion at all for an NFL team name. The Washington Football Team. Well, this is just simple. Just keep it the way it is right now. Calling yourself the football team is bold and original. Like the way soccer teams call themselves football clubs and gives them an air of professionalism. What would they use for a mascot? A person dressed as a football team? By naming them the football team implies that they are the most premier football team in the league. This is truly a lazy man solution. One funny way to improve the name would be to go by Washington Team Football, and the abbreviation would be interesting to see. This is definitely a no for me. The Washington Presidents. Naming a NFL team called the Presidents is not a bad name, but it's not a name that NFL teams should use for a franchise. It's like saying I'm going to watch the Presidents play tonight on Sunday Night Football, and thinking that all of our Presidents are actually playing, including the captain of the team would be George Washington. This name is a no for me. The Washington Senators. The Washington Senators were a Major League Baseball team from 1901 to 1960 and relocated to Minnesota. They were replaced by a new expansion team called the Senators from 1961 to 1971 and relocated again to Texas to become the Texas Rangers in 1972. Would it be nice to name the Washington NFL team the Senators? That would pay respect to the old MLB team, because this team is based in America's capital. The Washington Memorials. This one reminds me of constant sadness for all those we've lost in the name of our country. And it makes you feel like we would be doing a memorial for this team and we wouldn't have a chance of winning. Definitely not an uplifting name, but brings a time of reflection instead of hope and chance of winning the game. The Washington Lincolns. This name could be inspiring as our country loved Lincoln and for what he stood for and what he did for our country. So maybe this would be a name for hope and change that yes, we can do anything we set our minds to. Yes, Lincolns, let's go. Let's win. But we all must consider, this may be a difficult name as they would have to get permission from the car company to use their name, which may be impossible, but if allowed, this would be a great name. The Washington Greyhounds. If Washington decides not to use any political or historical names, the best bet is that they assemble a list of animal names and see what looks the best. If they do this, Greyhounds would have to be on the list for potential names. If you are wondering, I'm talking about the dog breed here. Currently in the NFL, there are 5 teams named after birds and 4 teams named after cats, but none are named after dogs. The name Washington Greyhounds just feels and sounds cool. They can easily come up with a creative Greyhound-based mascot. Think about all the cool halftime shows ideas they could run with Greyhounds. The Washington Retrievers. The new Washington football team name doesn't need to associate with politics, history, or the capital city. It can always just be an animal name. Why not the Washington Retrievers? Have you ever seen the Air Bud franchise where the Golden Retriever becomes a star in all those sports? In football, you have to go and retrieve the football. Washington could do so many cool creative things with their logo and mascot here. They could even get a real Golden Retriever to be their mascot. Like I said in the last scene, that the NFL doesn't have any teams named after dogs, but they do for birds and cats. I like this name a lot. I even have 2 Golden Retrievers myself. Yeah, so they even agree too with the name. With the Washington Retrievers. Isn't that right, Cooper? Cooper! Caitlin! Treat! Yeah, they even agree with that name too. Yes, they do. The Washington Federals. Why would we name a team after our federal government? Putting politics into sports is never a good idea. I prefer to keep sports separate from any type of politics, so that no one disagrees because of the politics. The Washington Generals. There's already a sports team named the Washington Generals. For those who aren't aware, the Generals take part in games against the Harlem Globetrotters. In those matchups, the Generals tend to get schooled in those competitions. Reports have stated that they have only defeated the Globetrotters 3 to 6 times in history. The other team was the New Jersey Generals that played in the USFL. It's a nice suggestion, but it won't be easy to win the rights over to name the team the Generals. The Washington Commanders. If you want the team name to be tied into American history and the nation's capital and patriotism, then the name Commanders is the name for you. There was originally a team called the San Antonio Commanders that played 1 season in the Alliance of American Football, but the league folded before completing its first season. The name Commanders would work as a tribute to the military, but this is a team that was themed around Native Americans then. So by naming them something that relates to the military probably wouldn't be the best transition. Just my 5 cents. The Washington Revolutionaries. The name Revolutionaries embodies the belief that we can always improve as a society and covers everyone from George Washington to Susan B. Anthony to Martin Luther King Jr. It allows the team to keep its HTTR hashtag. I think this would be a great name for the team in America's capital and will be a great tribute to all the people that have sacrificed for others. The Washington Warthogs. This name would reference the Redskins' legendary offensive line that dominated during the 80s and early 90s glory days under head coach Joe Gibbs. This offensive line was referred to as the Hogs, and they propelled the team to 3 Super Bowl championships. They had arguably the biggest fan following of any offensive line in the NFL history. They could also call them the Washington Hogs, but that doesn't sound really very pretty. The offensive line included Hall of Famer Russ Grimm and Pro Bowler Jeff Bostic. So the Warthogs or the Red Hogs or the Pigskins would be a fitting tribute to them, who helped lead the Washington dynasty over 3 decades ago. How did the offensive line get the Hogs nickname? Former Washington offensive line coach Joe Bugle was quoted as saying, "Okay, you Hogs, let's get running down there," during training camp in 1982. The Washington football team simply hasn't been that good of a team since the Hog days ended. Instead of calling them the Hogs, or Red Hogs, or the Pigskins, why not just call them the Warthogs? The name Washington Warthogs sounds better and is more fun. An added bonus is that it also is the nickname for the A-10 fighter jet. I like this name a lot, especially because it has history. The Washington Warriors. The name Warriors would work on a lot of different levels, and yes, there's already a professional sports team with this name. That team would be the Golden State Warriors, and I'm sure most of you have played on or against a team that's named the Warriors. It's a common sports team name, but the Washington Warriors has a really good ring to it. You maybe don't know this, but it's also worth noting that Daniel Snyder also once trademarked the Washington Warriors name. He was hoping to bring an Arena Football League team to DC, but it never transpired. But the point here is that he is obviously intrigued by the team name. The Warriors name has to be on the list for considerations. That being said though, if they do choose the name Warriors, this name still draws some controversy. On one hand, it continues to keep Native Americans in mind while removing the term Redskins. But on the other hand, many people have an issue with Native Americans being used as a mascot at all. But honestly, they could just be called Warriors and just not even have a relation to anything, but just be called the Warriors. But that being said, I personally think that they should try to stay with a Native American theme as long as it's honoring them in a respectful way. The Washington Freedom. There was actually a women's professional soccer team based in Washington called the Freedom. The Freedom played in the WPS from 2001 to 2011 before relocating. Freedom is a patriotic and true American word. The Constitution, independence. It's all associated with this word, and it would tie in perfectly to Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. So that would be a great gesture to pay tribute to the soccer team while associating the Washington NFL team with the word freedom. I absolutely think that this is a fantastic name, especially for our nation's capital, and should be on the list for consideration for the name of the team. The Washington Red Hots. The name Red Hots has a number of respectful Native American associations, including the Sioux Chief Red Hawk. It's a way to honor their history and their present and possibly making good after a near century of slander that the original name Redskins created allegedly. This wouldn't be the first time a sports team changed its name from Redskins to Red Hots. Miami of Ohio made this switch during the 1997-98 school year. I really like this name, and it would keep Native Americans theme in our nation's capital. The Washington Red Tails. The name Red Tails has been frequently mentioned as a potential replacement. The name Red Tails celebrates the World War II Tuskegee Airmen, who were the first African American military aviators in the U.S. Armed Forces. The name Red Tails refers to the Tuskegee Airmen, a group of all African American pilots who fought in World War II. Cuba Gooding Jr. and Terrence Howard star in the 2020 film called Red Tails, which tells the story of the Tuskegee Airmen. I've seen that movie, and it's a great movie, so you should go and see it too. By changing the team name to Red Tails, this would be a very touching way to honor those who served in the Second World War. There are tons of cool looking creative designs that they can use, and you can see that there are plenty of great names Washington used if they're looking to honor the military or patriotic aspects of their history. This is one of my favorite names in this list and should be considered one of the favorites for the new name for Washington. The Washington Americans. If they don't want to overthink things here, why not sell on the Washington Americans? After all, this is America's capital we're talking about. Currently, there is no major North American sports team that has this name yet. There is a junior hockey team, the Tri-City Americans, who play in the WHL, and hey, the Canadiens team name for the Montreal NHL club is widely regarded as one of the most iconic in professional sports. If there is one city that needs to adopt the Americans' team name, it would be the nation's capital. The Washington Americans just seems perfect and would roll off the tongue rather nicely, and it's a great name that would work for all. And there would be plenty of great possible ideas for logos and uniform designs to work around. This is one of my favorite names in this list and should be considered as a possible team name. If you look at it, the Washington Americans could take away the Americans team title from its division rival, the Dallas Cowboys. The Washington Red Wolves. The NFL has 5 teams named after birds and have 4 NFL teams named after cats, but none are named after wolves. This name checks all of the boxes: intimidating, cool logo possibilities, and overall has a nice ring to it. The animal red wolves is an endangered species with an estimated 35 or fewer wild red wolves. It would be cool to see 80,000 people in FedEx Field howling like wolves after one of their players gets a sack in a game. I really like this name, and they should absolutely put this name on the list for potential names for Washington. What name should the Washington football team change their name to? Join me in the comment section below and tell me what you guys think. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, make sure to hit that like button, and make sure you hit that notification bell to be notified of all new videos coming out in the future. Make sure you share this video with friends and family. My name is Nathan. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to just keep loving sports, and I'll see you next time.